The cathedral nave hummed with a symphony of whispers. The air was thick with the echoes of ancient prayers, murmured secrets, and the soft rustle of fabric as the audience settled into their seats. The grandeur of the Gothic architecture, with its towering arches and intricate stained glass windows, created an atmosphere of reverence and awe. Black velvet lined the ancient stone walls, absorbing the light and adding to the sense of mystery. The fabric seemed to drink in the shadows, creating an almost otherworldly ambiance. It was as if the cathedral itself was cloaked in a shroud of darkness, a fitting backdrop for the night's event. Gargoyles perched above, silent sentinels in the flickering candlelight. Their stone faces, carved with expressions of eternal vigilance, seemed to watch over the proceedings with a mix of curiosity and indifference. The candles cast long, dancing shadows on the walls, adding to the cathedral's eerie beauty. The scent of incense hung heavy in the air, a heady blend of myrrh and frankincense. It was a fragrance that spoke of ancient rituals and sacred ceremonies, filling the space with a sense of timelessness. The smoke curled and twisted in the air, creating ghostly shapes that seemed to move with a life of their own. This was no ordinary fashion show. It was a convergence of art, history, and fashion, a celebration of the Gothic aesthetic in its purest form. The audience, dressed in their finest Gothic attire, added to the spectacle, their outfits a testament to their dedication to the theme. It was a spectacle of the night, a tribute to the eternally elegant, the eternally damned. The models, with their ethereal beauty and haunting presence, brought the designs to life, each step a dance between the past and the present. The night was alive with the spirit of Gothic romance and dark allure.
Models drifted down the makeshift runway, their movements graceful and deliberate. Each one seemed to glide rather than walk, their feet barely touching the ground. The audience watched in rapt attention, their eyes following every movement, every gesture. They were ethereal creatures draped in lace and leather, their outfits a blend of delicate intricacy and bold statement. The lace whispered of fragility and romance, while the leather spoke of strength and rebellion. Together, they created a visual symphony that was both captivating and haunting. Their eyes, rimmed with kohl, held an ancient wisdom. It was as if they had seen the rise and fall of empires, the ebb and flow of time. Their gazes were intense, piercing through the darkness and into the souls of those who dared to meet their eyes. Each look was a story, a glimpse into a world long forgotten. Each garment whispered of bygone eras, of Gothic romance and tragic beauty. The designs were a homage to the past, yet they carried a modern edge that made them timeless. The fabrics, the cuts, the details, everything spoke of a deep appreciation for the art of fashion and the history it carried. Crimson velvet capes flowed like spilled blood, a striking contrast against the dark backdrop. The rich, deep red of the fabric caught the light, creating a visual feast for the eyes. It was a bold statement, a reminder of the passion and intensity that lay at the heart of the Gothic aesthetic. Jet black corsets, cinched waists, a testament to timeless allure. The corsets, with their intricate lacing and precise tailoring, highlighted the models' figures, creating a silhouette that was both dramatic and elegant. It was a nod to the past, yet it felt incredibly modern and relevant.
From her hidden alcove high above, Lilith observed. She was a figure of mystery, her presence almost ethereal. She watched with a keen eye, her gaze taking in every detail, every movement. It was as if she was a part of the cathedral itself, a silent observer of the night's events. Centuries had passed since she last graced a mortal gathering. The world had changed, yet the essence of beauty and art remained the same. She had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, the changing tides of fashion and culture. Yet here in this cathedral, she felt a connection to the past, a sense of continuity that transcended time. Yet, boredom and an insatiable thirst for beauty had lured her to this spectacle. She had grown weary of the mundane, the ordinary. This event, with its blend of history and modernity, had piqued her interest. It was a reminder of the power of art, of the ability to create something timeless and beautiful. She had seen it all, experienced the heights of passion and the depths of despair. Her life had been a tapestry of emotions, each thread a different experience, a different story. Yet tonight she felt something stir within her, a sense of anticipation that she hadn't felt in centuries. Tonight, something stirred within her ancient heart, a flicker of anticipation in the face of predictable ennui. It was a feeling she had almost forgotten, a reminder of the power of beauty and art to move even the most jaded of souls. As she watched the models glide down the runway, she felt a connection, a sense of belonging that transcended time and space. Her gaze, sharp as shattered glass, swept over the crowd. The room was filled with the elite, draped in opulent fabrics and adorned with jewels that sparkled under the dim golden light. Yet none of them could hold her attention for more than a fleeting moment. They were but fleeting shadows, a pale imitation of true beauty. Then she saw him. He stood near the front, a stark contrast to the opulent surroundings. His presence was like a breath of fresh air in a room stifled by the weight of pretension and grandeur. The crowd seemed to part around him, as if he were a rock in a stream, unmoved by the currents of social expectation. His dark hair was brushed back, revealing a strong jawline and piercing blue eyes. Eyes that seemed to see through the layers of artifice that surrounded him. He was not like the others, who wore their wealth and status like armor. He stood alone, yet he was not lonely. Unlike the others, his gaze held no fear, only curiosity. It was as if he were studying the room, the people, and even her, with a detached interest. His eyes were windows to a soul that had seen much and judged little. They were eyes that invited questions but offered few answers. He wore a simple black turtleneck and tailored trousers. His attire was understated, yet it spoke volumes. It was a deliberate choice, a statement of individuality in a sea of conformity. He did not need the trappings of wealth to command attention. His presence was enough. Yet he outshone every soul present. There was a quiet confidence about him, an inner strength that radiated outward. It was as if he carried a light within him, a light that drew others to him like moths to a flame. An aura of quiet power radiated from him, an irresistible magnetism. It was a power that did not need to be flaunted. It was simply there, undeniable and compelling. He was a man who knew who he was and was unafraid to be himself. Lilith felt a long-dormant hunger stir within her. It was a feeling she had not experienced in centuries, a primal urge that she had almost forgotten. It was as if he had awakened something deep within her, something that had been lying dormant, waiting for the right moment to resurface.
It was a primal urge, a craving for something beyond the mundane. She had grown weary of the endless parade of faces, the shallow conversations, the hollow laughter. But this man, Damien, was different. He was a mystery, a puzzle that she felt compelled to solve. His name, she learned from the hushed whispers around her, was Damien, a writer, they said, a man who spun worlds from words, who created realities with the stroke of a pen. He was a creator, a dreamer, and she found herself irresistibly drawn to him, a man of words and worlds unseen. He possessed a depth she had not encountered in centuries. It was a depth that called to her, that resonated with something deep within her own soul. She had seen many men in her long life, but none like him. He was a man who lived in two worlds, the world of reality and the world of his imagination, and it was this duality that fascinated her, that drew her to him like a moth to a flame. She wanted to know him, to understand him, to be a part of his world. He possessed a depth she had not encountered in centuries. It was a depth that called to her, that resonated with something deep within her own soul. She had seen many men in her long life, but none like him. Lilith found herself drawn to him, an inexorable pull towards the unknown. It was a pull she could not resist, a call she could not ignore. She knew that meeting him would change everything, that it would set her on a path she had never imagined, and yet she felt no fear, only anticipation. The Queen's gaze had found its mark, and there was no turning back.
Back in her atelier, Lilith paced. The room with its opulent decor and dark, brooding atmosphere seemed to mirror her inner turmoil. Each step she took echoed softly against the polished wooden floors, a rhythmic reminder of her growing obsession. The memory of Damien consumed her thoughts. His piercing eyes, the way his lips curved into a knowing smile, every detail of his face was etched into her mind. She could almost feel his presence, as if he were standing right beside her, whispering secrets only she could hear. His image, seared into her memory, haunted her waking hours and bled into her dreams. Night after night, she found herself waking in a cold sweat, his name on her lips. The line between reality and fantasy blurred, leaving her in a perpetual state of longing and confusion. Gone was her usual detachment. The cool, calculated demeanor she had always prided herself on was now replaced by a raw, unfiltered emotion. She felt vulnerable, exposed, as if Damien had stripped away all her defenses and laid her soul bare. In its place bloomed an obsession, a need to possess him entirely. It was a hunger that gnawed at her, relentless and insatiable. She found herself constantly thinking of ways to draw him closer, to make him hers in every sense of the word. Her atelier, a testament to her timeless elegance, seemed to close in around her. The once comforting walls now felt like a cage, trapping her with her thoughts and desires. Every piece of furniture, every ornate decoration seemed to mock her, reminding her of the life she once led. Dark velvet curtains draped the tall windows, shutting out the unwelcome light of day. The room was bathed in a perpetual twilight, a fitting backdrop for her dark musings. She preferred it this way, the darkness providing a cloak for her innermost thoughts. Antique furniture, each piece imbued with its own silent history, filled the room. These relics of the past seemed to whisper to her, their stories intertwining with her own. She often found herself running her fingers over their surfaces, drawing comfort from their presence. The air itself felt heavy, thick with the scent of ancient books and Lilith's own intoxicating perfume. It was a heady mix, one that seemed to wrap around her, pulling her deeper into her own world. The scent was a constant reminder of her identity, a blend of the old and the new.
She ran a hand over the smooth surface of her antique dressing table. The cool wood beneath her fingers was a stark contrast to the heat of her emotions. This table, a piece she had cherished for years, now felt like a lifeline, grounding her in the midst of her turmoil. It was here she prepared for her nightly sojourns, meticulously crafting the image she presented to the world. Each brushstroke, each dab of makeup was a ritual, a way to armor herself against the outside world. Here she donned the mask of ageless beauty. The reflection staring back at her was one of perfection, a facade she had perfected over the years. But tonight, even this ritual felt hollow, a mere distraction from the storm raging within her. But tonight, even the allure of her reflection failed to hold her attention. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Damien, his face, his voice, his touch. It was as if he had cast a spell on her, one she was powerless to break. Damien's face, so vividly alive, eclipsed all else. Every detail of his visage was imprinted on her mind, overshadowing everything else. She knew she had to see him again, to feel his presence, to make him hers. The obsession had taken root, and there was no turning back. You seem to have an admirer.
Damien looked up from his manuscript, startled. Rain lashed against the windows of his townhouse, mimicking the sudden storm brewing within him. He had felt her presence since she stepped inside, a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a prickling at the back of his neck. Lilith stood in the doorway, framed by shadows. Her beauty was undeniable, an intoxicating blend of elegance and otherworldly allure. She wore a gown of midnight blue silk, its fabric clinging to her curves like a second skin. A single ruby pendant adorned her throat, its crimson depths mirroring the hunger in her eyes.
I don't believe in admirers.
He rose from his chair, every movement measured and controlled.
No? Perhaps you simply haven't met the right one.
Lilith glided further into the room, her movements fluid, almost predatory. Damien met her gaze, refusing to back down. He had sensed her true nature from the moment their eyes met across the crowded cathedral. The undeniable aura of power, the faint scent of something ancient and undeniably predatory.
What do you want?
A slow smile spread across Lilith's lips, revealing a flash of pearly white teeth.
You, Damien, I want you to know me, truly know me.
She took another step closer, the scent of her perfume, a heady blend of jasmine and blood filling his senses.
I know more than you think.
He knew the stories, the ancient lore whispered in hushed tones. The allure of the vampire, the seductive promise of immortality, masked a much darker truth.